My wife used my entire annual bonus to save her brother. Then her whole family toasted her generosity with my money. But none of them expected karma to come knocking so soon. Before we go on, hit subscribe and drop a comment telling us which city you're tuning in from. My name is Javier. I'm 39 years old. I'm married to Mariana, and we have two children, Lucas and Emma. Lucas was 10 years old when all this happened. Emma was 7. For a long time, I thought my biggest problem was exhaustion. Later, I understood that exhaustion can be endured when you know what you're working for. What can't be endured the same way is discovering that someone took that effort. They moved it secretly and turned it into an act of someone else's generosity. I wasn't rich, I never was. I worked as a shift supervisor in a food production plant. It was a stable job, but tough. A lot of pressure, changing schedules, after-hours calls, supervisors who demanded results as if the machines didn't break and the employees weren't human. That year had been especially hard. The company had problems with a new production line. There were delays, audits, staff turnover, and 2 resignations that left us covering shifts that weren't ours. My boss offered overtime, productivity bonuses, and a real chance of a good annual payment if we kept the numbers up. I accepted, not out of ambition, not to show off, not because I dreamed of luxuries. I accepted because we were tied at home. We had a card with a high balance from a medical emergency for Emma. In the end, it was nothing serious, thank God. But between consultations, studies, and medications, a debt accumulated that was still breathing down our necks. The family car also needed repair. It wasn't paint or comfort or a whim. The engine was making a strange noise, and the mechanic had already warned me that if I kept waiting, the cheap would end up being expensive. Also, we owed part of the kids' school tuition. We weren't about to lose their enrollment, but I hated living with pending payments. I felt that every debt was a ajar door through which a misfortune could enter. And there was the promise of a vacation. I'm not talking about a luxury trip. I'm not talking about expensive hotels or international flights. I'm talking about taking my kids to the beach for a few days. Something simple. Ice cream, sand, a clean room, and time. Real time. Lucas had been asking for months. Dad, are we going this year? Emma had made a list on a notebook sheet. She drew a sun, an umbrella, and wrote with crooked letters what she wanted to do. Eat French fries looking at the sea, play with a bucket, sleep late, buy a bracelet, make castles. Every time I saw that list stuck with a magnet on the fridge, it hurt a little. I wanted to give them that, not to show off, not because children need vacations to survive, but because they'd spent too much time hearing phrases like "we'll see later," "we can't now," "when things get better," "maybe later." That year I wanted later to finally arrive. Mariana knew all that, or at least I thought she knew. For months we talked about the bonus as if it were a life raft. One night, after putting the kids to bed, we sat down with a notebook. I wrote columns: tuition, emergency, vacation. Mariana looked at the sheet and sighed. You always make everything seem like a military operation, because if we don't organize it, the money disappears. I said that knowing how ironic it would sound later. She leaned back in her chair. We could also save something to breathe. That's an emergency. No, Javier, breathing is not emergency. Breathing is buying something without feeling guilty. When we pay off the card, we'll feel less guilty. Mariana didn't answer. At that time, we were already arguing about money. Although they weren't screaming matches every day, they were clashes of ways of seeing life. I saw money as security. She saw it as relief. I wanted to close debts. She wanted to feel that we weren't living punished. I understood her to a certain extent. Mariana was also tired. She worked part-time from home, took care of many things for the children, and carried an invisible burden that I didn't always see. I'm not going to say that Mariana did nothing. That would be a lie. But when it came to her family, especially her brother Mauricio, her sense of responsibility became warped. Mauricio was 3 years younger than her. If Mariana was the daughter who had tried to build a stable life, Mauricio was the son who was always about to achieve something, about to change, about to mature, about to get the good job, about to pay what he owed, about to start over. He had been starting over for years. First, it was a cell phone accessories business. My mother-in-law, Teresa, lent him money. The business closed in a few months because, according to him, the location was bad. Then it was a partnership with a friend to sell spare parts. The friend ended up being a freeloader. According to Mauricio, we never saw any accounts. Then he wanted to be a driver for an app. He bought a used car with his father's help, crashed it, half repaired it, and then said that the fuel was too expensive. He also asked for money for courses he didn't finish, for debts he didn't explain, for overdue rent, to recover tools he supposedly needed for work. Each time was the last time. Each time he came with red eyes, a broken voice, and a speech about how difficult it was to get up when no one believed in him. And each time my mother-in-law repeated the same thing. Mauricio just needs a chance. I thought Mauricio didn't need another chance. He needed consequences. But saying that out loud within Mariana's family was like spitting on a wedding photo. Teresa protected him with a dangerous devotion. My father-in-law Ramiro protested at first and then gave in. Mariana said she didn't want to get involved, but she always ended up involved. Sometimes she would send him small amounts without telling me right away. 20, 50, 100. When I found out, we would argue. It's my brother, and these are our household expenses. I didn't give him a fortune. It's not the world, it's the habit. You don't understand. That phrase always came up. You don't understand because he's not your brother. Maybe it was true. He wasn't my brother, but Lucas and Emma were my children. And every time Mariana diverted money to Mauricio, even if it was a little, I saw something that was being taken away from them. A few months before the bonus, Mariana told me about another emergency. I was reviewing a credit card bill when she sat down in front of me. Mauricio is in a bad situation. Bad as in he owes rent. If he doesn't pay, he's going to get kicked out again. Don't start, Mariana. For months ago, you said he was going to move to a cheaper place. He tried. He didn't try. He talked about trying. Don't be unfair. I put the pen on the table. How much does he need? She looked down. About 100. No, you didn't even think about it. There's no need. We don't have 100 for Mauricio. We have savings. We have a minimum emergency fund for the kids. This is an emergency. No, this is a consequence. Her eyes filled with tears. How easy it is to talk like that when it's not your family. My family lives here. Lucas and Emma live here. She stood up abruptly. I'm not going to ask you for anything. Forget it. I didn't forget. Because when Mariana said, I'm not going to ask you for anything, it almost always meant she was going to find another way. That time I didn't find any large transfers. Maybe she didn't do it. Maybe Mauricio solved it with someone else. Maybe Teresa paid, but the issue remained floating. Mauricio started showing up more. He would come to the house with excuses, to drop off a tool, to see the kids, to bring bread, to talk to Mariana in the kitchen in a low voice. I would walk in, and they would both change the subject. One night, I heard Mariana in a low tone. You have to sort everything out before you ask for anything else. Mauricio replied almost shamelessly. If I had a way to sort it out, I wouldn't be asking for help. When he saw me, he smiled. Brother-in-law, how's everything at the plant? Tired, but you're doing well. That's what's important. I didn't like that phrase. You're doing well. People use that phrase to turn your effort into permission. I didn't argue. I just nodded and went to check on Lucas's homework. The year continued to be heavy. There were weeks when I worked 6 days. Some nights I'd get home after the kids were asleep. Emma would leave drawings on my pillow. Lucas would send me messages from Mariana's phone. Dad, we won in soccer. Dad, I got a good grade. Dad, Emma cried because you didn't come for the story. That last one destroyed me. I got home that night around 10:30. Emma was asleep with a book open on her chest. I sat next to her, carefully removed the book, and gave her a kiss on the forehead. Mariana appeared at the door. She asked for you 3 times. I know. This can't go on forever. It's not going to go on forever. You've been saying that since January. The bonus comes in December. She crossed her arms. Not everything can be fixed with a bonus. No, but many things can. She looked at me as if she wanted to say something else. She didn't. The next morning, before I left, Emma came out with her hair disheveled. Dad, when the bonus comes, are we going to see the sea? I stood there with my work bag in my hand. Yes, if everything goes as we hope. Promise. Mariana looked at us from the kitchen. I hesitated for just a second. Life had taught me not to promise things that depended on money, but Emma held out her pinky. I hooked mine with hers. Promise. Lucas appeared behind her. I want to learn to swim well. We'll practice. And no work phone. That phrase hit me. No work phone. Mariana looked down. I want to believe that at that moment, she felt something, that she understood what that bonus represented, that she saw her excited children and thought of them first. After what happened, I don't know what she saw anymore. The day the bonus arrived, I was at work. I received the notification from the bank during a break. I opened the app, and there was the deposit, higher than I expected thanks to the overtime and meeting the goals. It wasn't a fortune for a rich person. For us, it was oxygen. I stared at the figure with a mixture of relief and exhaustion. My shoulders ached suddenly, as if my body understood that it could let something go. I sent a message to Mariana. The bonus has arrived. Tonight, we'll review payments. She replied with a heart. Then she added, I'm glad. You deserve it. I read that phrase several times. You deserve it? Yes, I deserved it, but more than deserving it, we needed it. That afternoon, I bought a small box of donuts for the kids. It wasn't a big expense, just something to celebrate. I arrived early for the first time in weeks. Lucas ran to hug me. Emma opened the box and shouted as if I had brought a treasure. Does that mean we're going to the beach now? Mariana stood still. I smiled. It means we're closer. Lucas raised his hands. Yes. That night, after putting them to sleep, I took out the notebook. Mariana seemed distracted. Are you okay? Yes, just tired. I'll pay the card tomorrow. Tomorrow. Yes, I want to do it before something else comes up. She pressed her lips together. We could wait a few days. For what? I don't know, to see everything calmly. We've seen it 1,000 times, Javier. I'm just saying we don't have to rush. I looked at her. We've been waiting for this money for months. I know, so I'll pay tomorrow. She didn't argue anymore. That seemed strange to me, but I was too tired to read into it. The next day, there was a problem at the plant. A machine stopped. There was a quality check, and I left late. I didn't pay the card in the morning as I had planned. I thought I'd do it at night, but I got home exhausted and my eyes were closing in front of the screen. Mariana came over with a soft voice. Do it tomorrow. A day won't make a difference. For once I listened to her. That was the day she moved the money. I found out later. At that moment, I just fell asleep, believing that for the first time in months our account was breathing. 2 days later, on a Saturday morning, I opened the bank app to make the payments. The figure didn't add up. At first, I thought I was seeing things wrong. I closed the app. I opened it again. I checked the main account. I checked recent transactions. The bonus was gone. Not part of the bonus, not a small amount. Almost all of it had gone out in a large transfer to an account I didn't recognize immediately. I felt a pit in my stomach. My first thought was fraud. I got up so fast that the chair hit the wall. Mariana was in the kitchen making coffee. You used the account. She turned slowly. Too slowly. Well, you made a large transfer. Her face answered before her mouth did. Javier, where's the bonus? She put the cup on the table. We need to talk. There's no phrase that announces anything good less than that one. No, answer first. Where's the bonus? Don't take it like that. Where is it? I moved it. The kitchen fell silent. From the living room, you could hear Emma watching cartoons. Lucas was in his room. That forced me to lower my voice. You moved it where? Mariana ran a hand through her hair to an account of Mauricio's. I looked at her without understanding, not because the words were confusing, but because my mind refused to accept them. You moved my bonus to your brother's account. Don't say my bonus as if I'm not part of this family. The bonus came from my job, from my overtime, from the weekends I wasn't here, and I held the house together while you worked. I'm not denying that, but you moved the money without asking me. Her eyes filled with tears. I knew you'd say no. That sentence was worse than a confession, because it wasn't a mistake, it wasn't an impulse, it wasn't a confusion. She knew she needed my consent. She knew she wouldn't have it and decided to skip it. Exactly. I was going to say no, because you don't understand. No. Mauricio was desperate. So were we. Not in the same way. A humorless laugh escaped me. Of course, the debts of this house don't count the same as your brother's. Don't be cruel. Cruel is taking money meant for your children and sending it to an adult who has been failing for years. It wasn't to spend. It was to start over. How many times has he started over? Mariana slammed her palm on the table. He's my brother. Emma lowered the volume in the living room. We both froze. I took a deep breath. Don't shout. Mariana looked towards the living room and lowered her voice. Sorry, how much did you send him? She said the figure. It wasn't everything, but it was almost everything that was going to change our situation. I leaned against the counter. That money was to pay off the card, fix the car, catch up on tuition, and take the kids to the beach. We can do that later. With what? Mauricio is going to pay it back. When? She didn't answer. When? Mariana. When he starts working. He has a job. He has a possibility. I stared at her. You sent him our bonus for a possibility. It wasn't just that. What was it? He owes money. If he didn't pay, they were going to take his things. He needed to get on his feet to accept a job with a friend. That's not starting over. That's plugging another hole. You don't know him like I do. I know him well enough to know he never pays back. Her face hardened. You always judge him. Because it always costs money. Your money. Of course. I stood still. What did you say? She regretted it, but it was too late. I didn't mean to say it like that. Yes, you said it like you think it. My money, until you want to use it. Then it's ours. That's unfair. Unfair is that Lucas and Emma have to wait again because Mauricio had another emergency. Mariana covered her face. Your children aren't going to die from waiting for a vacation. I felt something break. I didn't shout, but my voice changed. Don't use that phrase again, Javier. Don't say again that our children can wait as if what you took from them was a whim. It wasn't just a beach, it was a promise. It was time. It was the reason I accepted shifts that made me lose nights with them. I wanted to go too, but you wanted to save Mauricio. More she didn't answer. Because it was true, I didn't pay anything that day, I couldn't. The account was no longer enough for the plan. I made minimum payments to avoid charges. The car kept waiting. The tuition was pending for a few more days, and the promise of the beach became a lie that I had to manage in front of my children. That afternoon, Lucas came to the table. Dad, did you set aside the money for the trip? Mariana was there. She froze. I looked at Lucas and felt a rage that burned my throat. But I couldn't tell him the whole truth. I wasn't going to put the children in the middle. We're going to have to wait a little. Emma appeared from the living room again. 2 words, nothing more, but they hurt me more than the whole argument. A little. I'm sorting some things out. Lucas looked at his mother. Did something happen? Mariana couldn't meet his gaze. We just need to get better organized. Honey, Emma looked down. I already made my list. I went over and caressed her hair. Keep it. Don't throw it away, but we always save things for later. I didn't know what to say. Mariana left the kitchen with shining eyes. I stayed with the children, feeling that the theft had not only been of money, it had been of illusion, of trust, of time. That night, Mariana tried to get close. I didn't want to hurt them. I was sitting with the notebook open, looking at numbers that were no longer useful. But you did. My brother had no one else. He has a whole family that has been rescuing him for years. This time was different. It's always different until it happens again. She sat in front of me. What do you want me to do? Let him sink. I want you not to sink this house to keep him afloat. Mariana cried silently. Before her tears would have softened me, I would have sat next to her. I would have told her we'd find a solution. I would have ended up comforting her. Even though I was the one betrayed, that night I couldn't, not because I didn't love her, but because I was beginning to understand that her sadness didn't bring the money back. The next day, Teresa called Mariana. I didn't hear the whole conversation, but some phrases. No, Mom, he's still upset. Yes, I know. No, don't tell him anything. That last phrase made me look up. Mariana saw me and hung up quickly. What shouldn't she tell me, Mariana? My mom is nervous. She wants to thank you. Thank you for she didn't answer. Your family knows. They know I helped Mauricio. They know where the money came from. Silence. Mariana. Not all the details. I laughed slowly. Of course. She didn't want them to see you in a bad light. Me. If they knew you were against it, they would think you're selfish. I looked at her as if I didn't recognize her. So you let them believe that you gave the money. It wasn't like that. Did you tell them it was my bonus? She didn't answer. Did you tell them it was meant for our debts and the children? Nothing. Did you tell them you moved it without asking me because you knew I was going to say no? Mariana looked down. No. That's when I understood that the lie already had an audience. She hadn't just taken the money from me. She had also allowed her family to applaud her for giving it. The dinner was 3 days later. I didn't want to go. Mariana insisted. My mom invited us. She says she wants to see the kids. I'm not in the mood to see your family. If we don't go, everything will look worse. For whom? Javier, please, I don't want any more tension. I didn't cause the tension. I know. I'm not sure you know. Just one dinner. Let's go. We'll eat something and we'll leave. I should have said no, I know now, but at that moment, there was still a part of me trying not to break everything at once, a part that thought that maybe if we kept calm, we could sort out the mess. Besides, the kids wanted to see their maternal grandparents. They weren't to blame for anything. We went. Mauricio was there. He looked different. New clothes, new sneakers, a trimmed beard. He didn't look like a man on the brink of an abyss. He looked like someone who had just received oxygen paid for by someone else. He hugged me as if nothing had happened. Brother-in-law, thanks for coming. He didn't say thanks for the money. He didn't have the courage or he didn't have the decency. During dinner, Teresa talked more than usual. She was excited. Ramiro, my father-in-law, seemed uncomfortable, but not enough to shut her up. Mauricio said that he was closing a dark chapter, that he finally had a real chance, that a friend was going to get him into a project, that this time he was really going to get his life in order. I cut him his food and listened. Mariana barely looked at me. Then Teresa stood up with a glass. I want to say something. I felt Mariana tense up next to me. This family has been through difficult times. We all know that Mauricio has made mistakes. Mauricio looked down with a rehearsed gesture. But we also know that no one gets up alone. Sometimes a generous hand changes a life. Today I want to toast to my daughter Mariana because she has a heart that doesn't fit in her chest. Thanks to her, her brother can start over. There was applause. Applause. Lucas stopped chewing. Emma looked at her mother without understanding. Mauricio raised his glass. To my sister, the only one who never lets go. Teresa cried. An aunt of Mariana's sighed. That's family love. Another cousin added. Few people help like that. Ramiro mumbled cheers and drank. Everyone drank. Mariana smiled with wet eyes. She didn't look at me. I felt something cold inside me. It wasn't explosive anger. It was worse. It was clarity. Everyone was toasting to a generosity built on my year, on my exhaustion, on my bonus, on the car that was still pending, on the car that could fail, on Emma's vacation list, on the promise to Lucas, and my wife was accepting the applause. She didn't pause to say that it hadn't been just her. She didn't say that I had worked for that money. She didn't say that we had made a difficult decision. She didn't even say that it wasn't the time to toast. She smiled. She cried. She accepted the toast. That's when I understood that it wasn't just about helping her brother. It was about being seen as a savior, and for that she needed my effort to have no name. Mariana's aunt looked at me. Javier, you must be proud of the wife you have. I felt Mariana's gaze on me for the first time all night. She expected me to lie, to smile, to protect the scene. I took the napkin, wiped Emma's mouth, and replied calmly. I'm learning a lot about generosity. The aunt smiled without understanding. That's how it should be. Giving always comes back. I looked at Mauricio. Sometimes he looked down. Mariana put a hand on my leg under the table. It wasn't affection. It was a warning. Don't do this here. I didn't. Not because I didn't want to, not because they didn't deserve it, but because my children were sitting at that table. Lucas already noticed something. He looked from me to his mother, from his mother to Mauricio. Emma just wanted dessert, but even she felt the tension. I wasn't going to turn that dinner into the memory where their parents destroyed each other in front of everyone. So I waited. I listened to more speeches. Mauricio talked about new beginnings. Teresa talked about family that doesn't abandon. Mariana nodded with tears. I saved every phrase, not on my phone, in my memory, because every word confirmed something. They didn't plan to pay back. They planned to be grateful. And when a family turns a debt into a toast, they've already started to steal the possibility of reclaiming it from you. At the end of the dinner, Mauricio came over while the kids were saying goodbye to their grandparents. Hey, Javier, yes, he scratched the back of his neck. I know all this was weird, but I want to pay you back. How much are you going to pay me back? He blinked. Well, what Mariana lent me. How much? He couldn't say the exact figure. That was enough for me. When you know how much money you received, we'll talk. His face changed. You don't have to be like that. Like, what as if I were a thief? I looked at the table where his family was still laughing. Mauricio, If you received money without asking where it came from, you're irresponsible. If you knew where it came from and still accepted it, you're something else. He turned red. My sister wanted to help me with money that wasn't just hers. That's between you guys. No. Since you receive it, it's with you too. Mariana appeared right away. Javier, let's go. Yes. Let's go. In the car, no one spoke for several minutes. Lucas broke the silence. Mom, did Uncle Mauricio give us back the beach money? Mariana turned as if she had been hit. What? Lucas swallowed. I heard something. Emma, from her seat, hugged her doll. That's why we're not going. Mariana closed her eyes. I gripped the steering wheel. I didn't want this conversation in the car. Not like this. We'll talk at home. Lucas didn't insist. That made it worse. When we arrived, the kids went to put on their pajamas. Mariana tried to follow them, but I stopped her in the kitchen. I don't want to talk to them. You're going to talk to me first? Javier, please. Bank statements. She stood still. What? I want the bank statements of the accounts. Ours. Yours. Any account from which you moved money to Mauricio. You're exaggerating. It wasn't one transfer. I want to see it. You don't trust me? That question, after everything, almost made me laugh. No, she put a hand to her chest. You can't say that. I can, and I'm saying it with more calm than you deserve. I'm your wife, and you moved almost all my bonus without asking me. Our bonus, my job, our house, our children, your unilateral decision. Her eyes filled with tears. Don't treat me like a criminal. Then stop hiding information. There's nothing else. Perfect. Then you'll have no problem showing it. She looked down. That's when I knew there was something else. I didn't ask right away. I went to the living room, opened the laptop, and logged into the bank. I changed my personal access password. I activated transaction alerts. I downloaded the latest available statements from the joint account. Mariana was at the entrance. What are you doing? Why should I have done before, Javier? I'm not going to argue blind. I want to see every transaction. You're turning a mistake into a war. I looked up. I'm finding out if it was a mistake or a pattern. She didn't answer. That night, I discovered that the bonus hadn't been the first money Mariana moved without consulting me. It was the biggest, it was the most painful, it was the one that made everything impossible to ignore, but it wasn't the first. When I opened the bank statements, I still had a part of me expecting to find a single transfer. An impulsive, stupid, serious, but isolated decision. I wanted to believe that because the alternative was to accept that my wife had been using our account as a backdoor to rescue her brother for some time. The first page already took that hope away from me. There was a small transfer to Mauricio 3 weeks before the bonus, another one a month before, another one 2 months ago. Amounts that seen separately might seem like nothing compared to the big money. 50, 80, 120, 200. But I recognized those weeks. They were the same ones when we had said no to ordering food, that Lucas had to wait for new sneakers, that the car repair could wait a few more days. While I was adjusting household expenses, Mariana was opening small leaks to Mauricio. I kept scrolling down the document. Payment to a finance company, it wasn't ours. Deposit to an external account. Cash withdrawal on a day when Mariana said she needed to buy things for school. Another payment with a reference I didn't recognize. I took screenshots. I downloaded the transactions into a spreadsheet. I started marking everything that didn't add up. Mariana was in the kitchen pretending to wash a cup that was already clean. I heard her open a drawer, close it, walk, stop. She knew I was finding things. She didn't come into the living room. That told me more than any confession. At 1 in the morning, I had a list not complete, but enough. The bonus had been almost entirely transferred to Mauricio. Before that, in recent months, there had been at least 7 transactions she hadn't mentioned to me. Some small, others not so much. One came from an account I thought was for school expenses. Another came from a savings account we had set aside for emergencies. I stared at the screen until the numbers stopped looking like numbers. They were hours, they were days, they were promises, there were times I told my children to wait. They were simple dinners justified with the word savings. They were shoes I didn't buy. They were breaks I postponed, and Mariana had taken part of all that to sustain Mauricio's eternal fall. At 2 she came in. Her eyes were swollen, but she wasn't crying anymore. Are you going to be up all night? Yes, Javier, you're obsessing. I found 7 previous transfers. She stood still. They were small helps. They weren't small when you were telling me we couldn't afford things for the kids. Don't mix. That's exactly what you did. You mixed our house with your brother's problems. I didn't want to burden you with more stress. No, you didn't want me to say no. She didn't answer. How many more times? I don't know. Bad answer. I don't have everything in my head. Then tomorrow you'll give me access to your personal account statements. Her face changed. My personal account has nothing to do with it. If you moved money from there that came out of our account. Yes, you're crossing a line. You moved my bonus without permission and now you're talking to me about lines. It was our account and you used it as if it were yours. I'm your wife, not an employee who has to ask for permission for every little thing. You don't ask for permission to buy bread. You ask for consent to transfer almost an entire annual bonus to your brother. Mariana clenched her jaw. You always make it sound worse. I'm saying it exactly. She sat in front of me. What do you want? That Mauricio ends up on the street? That he gets humiliated? That he loses his chance? I want my children not to pay for the chances of an irresponsible adult. He's my brother, and Lucas and Emma are your children. She fell silent. That was the first time that phrase left her without an answer. The next day, I didn't go to work. I took a personal day. My boss didn't ask too many questions. I guess he heard something in my voice. I took the kids to school, came back, and called the bank. I didn't start by accusing. I started by asking, who could transfer from the joint account? What limits existed? If I could activate dual authorization, if I could change my salary deposit, if I could receive instant alerts, if there was a way to block large transfers without both of our approval. The advisor was friendly, but direct. The joint account allowed individual transactions because that's how we had opened it. Legally, Mariana could transfer. That didn't make it right within a marriage, but the bank couldn't treat it as fraud if she was a co-owner. That word hit me hard. Co-owner. We had opened that account years ago because we trusted that everything was for both of us. Now that trust was the tool that had been used to empty one's effort. The advisor explained options to me. Open a personal account for my payroll. Leave the joint one only for agreed-upon expenses. Activate alerts. Reduce limits. Cancel additional cards. Create a separate account for the children's savings. Keep records. It wasn't a dramatic conversation. It was practical, cold, necessary, and the colder it got, the clearer I saw everything. Anger doesn't protect accounts. Measures do. That same morning, I opened a new account in my name. I changed my salary deposit. I activated alerts for every transaction. I requested that any transfer from the joint account above a moderate amount generate immediate notification. I separated an account for the children, where only money meant for them would go and where Mariana wouldn't have access until we resolved the rest. When Mariana found out, she exploded. You opened another account. Yes, without talking to me, like you talked to me before transferring the bonus. She turned pale with rage. So, this is revenge. No, protection. You're separating our lives. You separated it when you decided that your brother had priority over our plans. I can't believe you're treating me like a thief. I put the papers on the table. I don't need to treat you like anything. I need to protect what's left. A marriage doesn't work like this. A marriage also doesn't work when one takes money secretly and lets the other find out while sitting at a dinner where everyone is toasting. She put her hands to her face. I already apologized. No, you said you didn't want to cause harm. That's not the same. What else do you want me to say? The truth. What truth? That you knew it was wrong. She didn't answer. That you didn't ask me because you knew I'd say no. Silence. That you accepted your family applauding you for a generosity paid for by me. Her eyes filled with tears. I was ashamed to say it. You weren't ashamed for them to know it wasn't your money. That phrase hit her. You're cruel. I'm tired of softening what you did so you can bear it. Mariana left the kitchen. Before I would have gotten up after her. Not this time. I stayed seated. I continued to organize documents, bank statements, transactions, captures, messages, because when an argument becomes versions, documents give you back your ground. That afternoon, I asked Mariana to see the conversations with Mauricio about the money. No, then I'll assume there's something you're hiding. It's my privacy. The money was from our house. I'm not going to let you invade everything. Perfect. Then there's no conversation possible. I got up. She followed me. Wait. She opened the chat with Mauricio and gave me the phone. It wasn't a gesture of transparency. It was fear. I only read what was related to money. I didn't need more. Mauricio had written to her before the bonus arrived. When does Javier's thing come in? Javier's thing. Not our bonus. Not the help. Javier's thing. Mariana had replied this week. I think. Mauricio wrote later. If you lend me that, I swear I'll get out of this. Don't tell him yet, because he's going to get intense. Mariana replied. I know. I have to see how to move it. I felt my hand clench around the phone. I kept reading. You can calm him down later. You know how he is. He always thinks about debts. Mariana replied. Because we're in debt. Mauricio insisted. But you guys can recover. I have no other way out. Further down, I found another message. Mom wants to have a dinner to thank you when it's resolved. Mariana wrote. Don't say much in front of Javier. Mauricio asked. He doesn't know. Mariana took a while to reply. Not yet. Not yet. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It wasn't an impulse. It wasn't a last-minute emergency. It was a plan. I saved captures and sent the files to myself. Mariana was crying when I gave her the phone back. I didn't think it would sound like that. It didn't sound. It was Mauricio pressured me. And you chose to pressure us without saying anything. I didn't want to lose my brother. So you decided to risk your marriage. She stood motionless. I think until that moment, she hadn't understood that that was the right word. Risk, not a fight. Not anger, not drama. Real risk. That afternoon I called Mauricio. He answered in a casual tone. Brother-in-law. What's up? I need to talk to you about the money. There was a pause. Sure. Mariana told me you're upset. I'm not upset. I'm documenting. Documenting. Yes. I want you to sign a debt acknowledgement with the amount and a payment plan. He laughed nervously. We don't have to get legal. We're family. That's what you said before you transferred my bonus without permission. Hey, I didn't know she hadn't told you. I have messages where you ask if I knew. Silence. Well, I didn't know all the details. You knew enough. Look, Javier, I'm going to pay you back. When? When the project starts. What project? One with a friend. It's almost done. Friend's name. What for? Because I want to know if it exists. He got offended. Don't talk to me like I'm a criminal. I'm talking to you like someone who received money from my house and can't explain how you're going to pay it back. Your wife wanted to help me with money that wasn't just hers. Settle that with her. I'm settling it with you too. You either sign or you don't get another cent from this house, and I'll talk to a lawyer to find out what my options are. Mauricio raised his voice. Are you threatening me? No. I'm giving you a chance to prove you intended to pay it back. He didn't answer. Tomorrow at 5, I'll send you the figure. If you have another figure, we'll discuss it with statements and receipts. He hung up. 5 minutes later, Teresa called. I didn't answer. Then she called Mariana. She spoke from the bedroom. I didn't hear everything, but some phrases came through the door. Mom, don't make it worse. Yes, he wants him to sign. No, I don't know. Mom, please. When she came out, her face was tired. My mom says you're humiliating Mauricio. Mauricio accepted the money without asking too many questions. The humiliation he earned when he let them toast to him with my bonus. She doesn't see it that way. Then we'll help her see it. Mariana looked at me with fear. What does that mean? That I'm going to talk to your family? No. Yes. Javier, please don't make a scene. The scene they already made when they toasted. I'm going to bring facts. The conversation with Mariana's family was 2 days later. I didn't just go with anger. I brought copies of statements, screenshots of messages, and a simple agreement proposal. I didn't need it to be perfect. I needed there to be a figure, a signature, and a date. Teresa received us with a hard face. Ramiro was sitting in silence. Mauricio avoided looking at me. Mariana's aunt was also there. The same one who at dinner had said I should be proud. I sat down without accepting coffee. Teresa started before I took anything out. Javier, this is getting out of proportion. I agree. Moving almost an entire family bonus without consent was disproportionate. She frowned. Mariana helped her brother. Mariana took money meant for our household debts and for her children to help an adult who didn't present. A repayment plan. Don't talk about Mauricio as if he were a stranger. He's not a stranger. He's worse. He's family, and he knew it was affecting us. Mauricio straightened up. I didn't know you were in such a bad way. I took out a screenshot. You asked when Javier's thing was coming in. You said I was going to get intense. You asked if I knew. You're not innocent. Teresa looked at Mauricio. He looked down. The aunt intervened. But the money in a marriage belongs to both. No. So do the debts. So do the children. So do the promises. Funny how you only remembered it belonged to both when it was time to give it to Mauricio. Ramiro spoke for the first time. How much was it exactly? I passed him the sheet. This from the bonus. This from previous transfers. I'm still reviewing this. Ramiro read, and his face hardened. Mauricio. Dad. I was going to pay it back. With what? Mauricio didn't answer. Teresa got upset. Don't attack him. He's trying to get back on his feet. No. He's trying to get back on his feet using someone else's legs. Mariana looked at me. But she didn't stop me. Teresa turned to her. Are you going to let your husband talk about your brother like that? Mariana opened her mouth, hesitated, and finally spoke. Mom, what I did was wrong. Teresa looked at her as if she had just betrayed her. What? I shouldn't have moved that money without talking to Javier. Mauricio said her name reproachfully. Mariana. She looked at him. No. That's enough. I'm paying for this too. It was the first time I heard her say it without an excuse. It didn't repair the damage. But it was something. Teresa started to cry. So now everyone is turning their backs on Mauricio. I put the sheet on the table. No one is turning their back on him. I'm asking him to pay back what he received. He can't now. Then he signs a plan. That's treating him like a criminal. No. That's treating him like a debtor. The aunt muttered something about coldness. I looked at her. Cold was toasting to Mariana's generosity without asking where the money came from. Cold was applauding while my children went without a vacation and our debts remained open. Cold was celebrating a help that cost you nothing. No one spoke. Mauricio took the sheet reluctantly. I can't pay this in the installments you set. Propose others. I don't know when I'll have an income. Then it wasn't a loan. It was a gift that no one asked me to authorize. His face hardened. Mariana wanted to help me. Mariana could help you with her personal share, not with the result of a year of overtime. Ramiro took the sheet. He's going to sign. Teresa turned to him. Ramiro. He's going to sign, and he's going to look for a real job. Mauricio stood up. Unbelievable. Now I'm a monster. You're an adult who is finally being held accountable. He went out to the patio. Teresa cried more. Mariana sat there pale. But she didn't go after him. That was something too. Mauricio signed 2 hours later. Not because he wanted to, because Ramiro forced him. The agreement said he acknowledged the amount received, that he committed to repaying it in monthly payments, and that any new default would be documented. It wasn't a perfect guarantee. It didn't give me back my trust, but it turned the toast into a written debt. After that meeting, Teresa stopped talking to me for weeks. I didn't care. Ramiro called me 3 days later. Javier. Yes, I didn't know it was your bonus. I remained silent. Teresa said Mariana had helped, but I thought you had decided together. I didn't. He sighed. I'm sorry. Thank you. Mauricio. He's been a problem for a long time. I allowed it too. I didn't know what to say. I'm not going to promise you he'll pay perfectly, but as long as he lives under my roof. He's going to work, and he's going to pay. I hope so. And about the dinner, he paused. It was wrong. That's when I felt a small relief, not huge, but real, because someone on the other side was naming what happened. At my house, things remained tense. Mariana started to feel the consequences of my measures. Her additional card was canceled, not as a punishment, but because it had been used several times for purchases related to Mauricio. The joint account was left only for fixed expenses. I deposited an exact amount each month. She also had to contribute what corresponded from her income. The children's savings were moved to a separate account. Big decisions needed conversation and confirmation in writing. Mariana hated it. You're treating me like a child, not like someone who broke financial trust. And how long are you going to punish me? This isn't punishment. It's a consequence. I can't live like this. I couldn't live either without knowing if the children's money was going to end up in Mauricio's hands. She cried many times. She got angry many more. but little by little she began to understand that my limits were not a phase. One night, after putting the kids to bed, she sat in front of me with a notebook. I made a list of what? Of what I moved before the bonus. I stood still. Everything I found, if something is missing, we'll review it. She gave me the sheet. There was more than I had detected. Not huge amounts, but constant. Some came from her personal account, others from the joint one. One came from a savings account we had put together for tuition. My jaw tightened. Why didn't you tell me before? Because every time I did it, I told myself it would be the last. That doesn't answer. She looked down. Because I knew that if I told you everything, you wouldn't trust me, and you decided to protect my trust with lies. Yes, it was the first time she didn't try to sugarcoat it. That hurt in a different way. Mauricio always called with an emergency. Mom would cry, Dad would get mad. But then he would give in. I felt that if I didn't help, I was a bad sister. Then I would see you with your charts, your accounts, your plans, and I was ashamed to ask you for more. So you took. She nodded. Yes. You know what was the worst? He looked at me. It wasn't just the money. It was seeing Lucas and Emma disappointed without being able to tell them that their mother had chosen their uncle over them. She burst into tears. I didn't see it that way. Why didn't you want to? You're right. That phrase came late. But it came. I don't need you to be sorry I found out. I need you to understand why it was wrong. I'm understanding. It's not enough to understand it today. I need to see what you do when Mauricio calls again. She didn't answer because we both knew he was going to call again, and he did. 2 weeks later, Mariana was in the kitchen when she got the message. I saw her look at the phone, tense up and leave it face down. I didn't ask. I waited. She took a deep breath and showed it to me. Mauricio needed to talk. He was having trouble with that month's payment. He asked that I not be told yet. Mariana looked at me with shame. Before she would have answered alone, and now she wrote in front of me. Any money issue, talk about it in the agreement group. I'm not going to hide anything from Javier. Mauricio replied almost immediately. I can't believe he has you like this. Mariana pressed her lips together. I didn't say anything. She wrote, No one has me. I'm stopping lying. That was the first moment I thought that maybe our marriage wasn't completely dead. Wounded. Yes, very wounded, but not dead. Still, I didn't trust her immediately. Not in a month or two. We went to marriage counseling because I made it a condition to keep trying. Mariana accepted at first like someone accepting a fine. Then she started to really talk. She said her family had raised her to believe that abandoning Mauricio was betraying blood. She said she felt like a bad daughter, a bad sister, a bad wife, and a bad mother at the same time. The therapist interrupted her once. Guilt explains why you felt pressure. It doesn't justify taking money without consent. Mariana cried. I was internally grateful that someone else said it. In therapy, I also talked about what I'd kept inside. It hurt to see everyone toast. I felt used. I started to wonder if my work was only valuable when it could be a rescue for someone else. I would look at Emma with her vacation list and feel like we had failed her. Mariana didn't defend herself that time. She just cried. I don't know how to fix that. Start by not asking me to forget it quickly. Mauricio's payments started badly. The first month, he paid in full. The second late. The third. Only part. I didn't call to scream. I sent the reminder in writing. Ramiro intervened. Mauricio paid the rest a week later. Teresa called me to tell me I was suffocating her son. I replied with a single sentence. I'm collecting a recognized debt. Family isn't treated like this. Family also doesn't toast with someone else's money. I hung up. I didn't answer her for a while. The children only knew what was necessary. I didn't tell them that their mother moved the bonus secretly. I didn't tell them that their uncle accepted money without caring where it came from. I didn't tell them that their grandmother toasted to a lie. I told them what they could understand. This year, there were money decisions that we have to sort out. It wasn't your fault. We're going to take a smaller trip now, and when we can, we'll do the beach one. Okay. Lucas looked at me with that seriousness that children sometimes have when they understand more than they should. It's because of Uncle Mauricio. Mariana closed her eyes. I breathed slowly. Part of the adults made bad decisions. I don't want you to carry that. But if it was because of him, lying to him would have been insulting. Yes, it had to do with him, but the adults are resolving it. Emma asked with a small voice. Did Mom do something bad? Mariana broke down. I answered before she could sink into tears. Mom made a money decision that affected us. She's trying to fix it. Emma looked at Mariana. So we're not going to the beach? Mariana knelt in front of her. Not like we promised. I'm so sorry. Emma cried. Lucas remained silent. That night, they both slept for a while on my side of the bed. Like when they were younger. Mariana stood in the doorway watching them, and for the first time I think she understood that she hadn't moved numbers, she had moved security. In the end, we took a short trip. 2 nights in a nearby place, nothing fancy. A small pool, simple food, board games. Lucas tried to pretend he didn't care about not seeing the sea. Emma brought her beach list folded in her backpack and kept it under her pillow. It hurt, but it was also a reminder. Never again. Never again would a promise to my children depend on an account that others could enter with someone else's guilt. Months later, Mauricio was still paying with delays. But paying not because he had changed his soul, because this time there was paper, dates, and consequences. Ramiro watched him. Mariana no longer rescued him secretly. Teresa was still saying that I had divided the family. Maybe I had. I divided the family between those who believed that helping was giving away what belonged to someone else and those who finally understood that it wasn't. Mariana and I continued, but not like before. And that was good because before wasn't working. Before I worked, I trusted and I checked late. Before she felt she could secretly resolve a family guilt. Before Mauricio could call and get in through a crack. Now there were rules, separate accounts, a written budget, therapy, agreements, transparency, and a phrase that Mariana learned to say even if it was hard for her. I can't help you with money. The first time she said it to Mauricio on the phone, I heard her from the living room. No, Mauricio, I can't. Pause. No. I'm not going to ask Javier another pause because it's not appropriate. Another longer pause. If you're in trouble, talk to Dad or seek advice. I'm not going to move money from my house. When she hung up, she leaned against the wall. I didn't go to congratulate her as if she had performed a heroic feat. It was the minimum. But I went over. Thanks for not lying. She nodded with her eyes full of tears. I felt horrible. Setting boundaries feels like that at first, and then it feels like breathing. I don't know if she fully understood, but she was learning. A year after the bonus, I received another annual payment. Smaller because I didn't work as much overtime. This time, I wasn't willing to buy money with absence. When it came in, it went directly to my personal account. We already had a plan discussed before, a part for debt, a part for emergencies, a part for vacation. Mariana didn't have direct access. She wasn't offended, or if she was offended. She worked through it in silence. That year, I took Lucas and Emma to the beach. It wasn't perfect. It rained one afternoon. The hotel had a shower that took a long time to heat up. Lucas got a little sunburned on his shoulders because he forgot to reapply sunscreen. Emma bought a blue bracelet and said it was exactly like the one in her drawing. One night, while the kids were eating ice cream in front of the sea, Mariana sat next to me. Thanks for not giving up on us. I looked at the kids. Don't confuse that with forgetting. I'm not. I'm still scared sometimes. I know, not that you'll help your family, but that you'll decide again that my consent is an obstacle. Mariana nodded. That's not going to happen again. I didn't answer right away. Before I would have said, I believe you to close the moment. Now I knew that trust isn't given away to make a scene pretty. I'll wait to see. She accepted the answer. That was also progress. Sometimes when I tell this story, people ask me if it was worth making such a big deal about money. That question always tells me they didn't understand anything. It wasn't just money, it was a year of my life. It was the aching back from coming home late. It was my daughter waiting for a story. It was my son asking me to turn off the phone. It was a car that was still accumulating interest. It was a promise made with a pinky. It was the difference between breathing and continuing to sink. And it was above all about consent, because in a marriage you can share accounts, expenses, tiredness, and plans. But sharing doesn't mean that one person can make a huge decision secretly and then cover it up with the word family. Giving can be noble, helping can be beautiful, but giving what wasn't just yours is not generosity. It's betrayal with good press. That night at dinner, Everyone toasted to Mariana's generosity. I didn't say anything, not because I accepted the lie, but because I learned that some scenes are better won with documents than with screams. I asked for bank statements. I separated accounts. I demanded repayment. I set limits. I protected my children's money, and I closed the door through which they had entered to give away my life without permission. My effort can support my family, but it will never again finance someone else's lies.